talk about this disciplinary. So in February, it looks like you have an AO7 sexual misconduct, and the brief overview of the cases that while in visiting, the cameras caught both you and a visitor masturbating during that visit. So what happened there? Why did you engage in that behavior?
I just got caught up in the moment with my ex-girlfriend. I fully take responsibility for my actions concerning the write-up. It's embarrassing as hell to talk to you about it. I promise you it won't happen again, or nothing reoccurring like this is ever going to happen again. I'm not a weirdo or a sex offender. I just got caught up in the moment. I learned my lesson, but it could have been charges that were filed or something like that. I don't want anything like that on my record or anybody else to see anything like that. So I apologize for that. And yeah, you don't have to worry about anything like that ever happening again.
Okay.
We are about to watch the Utah parole hearing of this man who you probably can't recognize in the intake picture. This was how he went in, and this is how he's going out. Now, some might say you got to do that when you go in with dirty paperwork, and I'll explain that at the end in the unpacking. For now, let's jump in.
Can you hear me, sir? Okay, can you just audibly say yes so I can test your audio?
Yeah, just give it a
Okay.
yes. I can read.
Perfect. Thank you. As soon as we go on the record, I will get started with your hearing.
How are you today?
Good, thank you.
Yeah, but she's about ready to bring the hammer down.
Can I just confirm that we're in Gunnison's hearing this morning?
We're on record.
So this is the time and place scheduled for a rescission hearing for Kenneth Wright, offender number 207063. Is that you, sir? Okay. My name is Charlotte, and I'm a hearing officer with the Board of Pardons and Parole. I'm going to be the one who's conducting your hearing today. I am going to be taking testimony from you, so I do need to swear you in. So to the best of your ability, if you'll please raise your right hand for me. Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Okay. And just make sure you talk up pretty, kind of lean into the microphone and talk up. I'm having a hard time picking you up. Okay, thank you. Did you receive at least 7 days written notice of today's hearing?
Yes, I did.
And did you receive a blue disclosure packet from the board? Okay, perfect, thank you. It's usually just a page or two for rescission hearings, but were there any errors in that documentation?
Correct.
Okay, thank you. So the purpose of today's hearing is to discuss why your parole date was rescinded. And after today's date, the board will decide what they're going to do in regards to giving you back a date, under what conditions, things like that. So it looks like you had a parole violation hearing back in January of 2024, and you're granted a parole date of 6/18 of 2024. On 4/1 of 2024, the board received a special attention letting us know that you had refused to sign the parole agreement, and that it was due to safety concerns with Zach and Saw, and that you are unwilling to go to a community correctional center, a CCC placement, and that your case manager had been willing to help you line up a program somewhere for you to go, and you had refused, saying that you had already tried to find a program, and so, but one had not been lined up apparently at this time, and so the case manager made sure that you understood the consequences of not signing your parole agreement, and that you'd have to come back and see the board. So that leaves us to where we are today. Also, I do need to note that we'll be discussing a disciplinary violation that you got in February here in a few minutes too. But let's discuss this parole agreement and what's going on with that. So I definitely understand your safety concerns and those, but what have you tried to line up in the community as far as a placement or?
So, the case manager that I talked to, not this one, but he came to, have him sign my parole agreement. He didn't offer to help me get any services. He just told me that I would be, they could expedite me, just kind of scared me a little bit. So the last time I was at Fort Two, I completed the CCC program. I had no dirties. I was discharged and, recommended a general outpatient treatment level of care by the therapist there. I enrolled in general outpatient treatment at the UHRC. Um, I tried to manipulate the system by saying that I swallowed fentanyl, so I wouldn't go to jail during the accident. I didn't swallow or anything because I would have been charged with a DUI and it would have been in my blood. I was just scared of going back to prison. I'll be honest, I was trying to manipulate the system. But as for the level of care that I need, I mean, I would go to a Medicaid place, but I'm afraid to go there because that's free and that's where all the active gang members go. You know, and I'm a pretty big target. I don't want to get hurt. I don't want to jeopardize my safety or anybody else's. You know, I want to be successful. I feel like going to a halfway house or a Medicaid approved place would be detrimental to my success on parole and detrimental to my safety. I still want to continue my care for the UHRC like I was previously doing. I had no dirties, so I didn't relapse. I've been sober for 4 years in January, almost 3.5 in June. I looked into getting treatment at because you guys ordered me to, at a residential treatment that I would have to pay for, but it's pretty expensive. Most of them want to show up there in person to sign up, and they want me to have been not sober for as long as I have. So when I tell them I've been sober for 4 years, they're like, well, that puts you at the bottom of the list. It kind of sets me back on that.
Okay. So if you were to be released without the stipulation of a program, what would your release look like?
Release would look like I have a stable environment to go to. My family doesn't use drugs. Was the black sheep of the family. My cousin said I could stay with her. My aunt said I could stay with her. I have a strong support system. And then I would continue my treatment at the UHRC. I have employment that was going to be able to work around my treatment hours. Basically just the same responsibility, just no driving this time so I don't get in another accident or drive without a license. So not going to put myself in the same situation that got me back there.
Okay. What type of work would you be doing?
I work at the hard tongue glass company, so like big glass panes and stuff, like just running through machines and pretty decent money.
Good. And what is UHRC? What is that acronym, or what does that stand for?
Child Human Rights Coalition. Maybe my therapist was supposed to send you guys something. I talked to her twice because I was accepted there and then arrested about a week later, and I hadn't started classes. But I called her and made contact with her, and she was supposed to send proof that I had enrolled. I don't know what happened. I was kind of stressed
Yeah.
out.
Okay. I haven't seen anything, but that doesn't necessarily mean it's not here. So I'm more than happy to double check on that.
Please.
Let's talk about this disciplinary. So in February, it looks like you have an AO7 sexual misconduct, and the brief overview of the cases that, while in visiting, the cameras caught both you and a visitor masturbating during that visit. So what happened there? Why did you engage in that behavior?
I just got caught up in the moment with my ex-girlfriend. I fully take responsibility for my actions concerning the write-up. It's embarrassing as hell to talk to you about it. I promise you it won't happen again, or nothing reoccurring like this is ever going to happen again. I'm not a weirdo or a sex offender. I just got caught up in the moment. I learned my lesson because it could have been charges that were filed or something like that. I don't want anything like that on my record or anybody else to see anything like that. So I apologize for that. And yeah, you don't have to worry about anything like that ever happening again.
Okay. Just so you're aware, in and of itself, a disciplinary is enough to have a date yanked. So outside of everything else, you getting in any sort of trouble, the board will automatically pull your date. And so be really careful going forward of that. What were your sanctions? What did you end up getting punished with because of that?
I got my date pulled. I got kicked out of MRT for a little bit. I got all my levels dropped. I got $150 fine. and my visitor was suspended, and I have no visits for 6 months. So
Okay.
they busted me back about as much as they could, which I get why.
Yeah.
I understand.
So you were able to get back into MRT after that?
So I'm starting again. It should only take me a couple months to finish, but I was gonna say if, I don't know how soon I'm gonna be granted a parole date. I don't know how far this write-up's gonna set me back.
Okay.
But I'm willing to do MRT on the street too, if it would get me a sooner parole date. Because at the UHRC, they do have it there. I think it's one of the standard things.
Okay. Perfect. Those are my questions. I know these are really brief hearings, but is there anything else that you would like the board to take into consideration when making their decision?
Last time I went over my matrix by a few months, by 6 months, this time I have the public safety. I'm just asking, please don't lay me down for this write-up, you know? I don't know. Got it. I'm nervous. I don't know.
You're okay.
I'm just ready to be successful and be a productive member of society and be getting back on my daughter's life and with my family.
One follow-up question, I just thought about, if the board was to still grant you a parole with the same contingency, do you have a plan for programming? I mean, I'm more than happy to let them know your recommendation is to have that contingency removed, or that parole requirement removed. But in case they do choose to grant you a parole with that same contingency, do you have a program lined up?
No, I do not.
Okay.
Being honest.
And I'll make sure that they're aware of your position, what your thoughts and feelings are on it, and then it is up to them, what's gonna happen from this point moving forward. Their process, just kind of like before, it typically takes 2 to 4 weeks. And as soon as they do come to that decision, you'll get it in writing. So you'll be able to review that, decide what you're gonna do, if you want to accept that parole, if you want to, refuse to sign it again, if you want to focus on accepting those, whatever the consequences or conditions are of that, and go forward with that. Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, definitely. Any questions for me, sir? Okay. Thank you so much. I'll go ahead. I wish you the best of luck, and I'll go ahead and conclude your hearing. Thank you.
That ending was almost comical. How he's a big man. He gets up, he's cuffed at the hands and the feet, and he shuffles out. And then she picks up her giant Thor hammer. I mean, coffee mug that's like this big. And it's kind of a fitting end to what was an interesting beginning with that hot mic of the CO joking about that giant hammer. Now, if you're wondering, the answer is yes, they did indeed grant parole. Um, so, I always find it to be interesting when you're locked up and you have to show up to your parole hearing in beat cuffs and handcuffs, and yet they're like, you're too dangerous when you're locked up in this facility to walk around without cuffs, but don't worry, you're going to get paroled and sent into the public. He's going to get to go out July 9th of 2024. Now, his full term date is 12/12 of 2032. And this picture that you see was when he was initially locked up for what was a sex crime. And that's what I meant by dirty paperwork. Also interesting, he said he didn't want that on his paperwork, but he already had it, right? Now we're going to look at what it is that he was initially locked up for. And that is, we are looking at Louisiana legislation, Code Title 76, 76.4, 5, 404, forcible sexual abuse. And that is right here when an individual commits it, if the victim is 14 years of age or older. Now, we do parole hearings for many different states, Iowa, Louisiana, Connecticut, Utah. A couple new states are coming. We did to Illinois, and all the legislation is different. So in some states, when they put in an age that says above 14, typically that means under 18. And they don't have that specifically written out here, but I'll make that assumption that it was for someone who was under the age, and that's why he got this felony. But otherwise, we don't have details. And normally, I would say, well, he received such a long sentence that it must have been bad. But we know in Utah that's not necessarily true. In Utah, they hand out long sentences like candy. You get life sentences for I shouldn't say almost anything, but they hand them out like candy. But something else that Utah does is they hand out parole like candy. So we have seen people show up with life sentences who then get a parole hearing 8 months into that life sentence. So we've seen very clearly that Utah sentencing is really just a gimmick. And I think it's a gimmick to impress its constituency. Most aren't aware that that the sentencing is kind of a joke. So, or I should say, is a joke. But now this parole hearing, if you just want, let's just talk about what happened. Is that he was granted parole, but he refused to sign the contract. You can't go out if you don't sign the contract, and you have to sign the contract. Now, what's interesting about this is that I actually think he's genuinely in fear of his life, which is why he didn't sign the contract. That's what he said. He said, I can't go to that program facility because it's full of gang members. I have a target on me. I can't go. And I think he's being truthful, because why would you not sign the agreement unless, of course, you're you're just out of it. But you don't see that very often, right? So you have to wonder if he's actually that afraid. And there could be many different reasons. It could be he left his gang. It could be that it's rival gangs that are there. People told him, hey, we know where you're going after you get paroled. We're going to meet you. So I didn't realize this until watching the Utah parole hearings, but apparently Utah is, I heard, maybe one of the third most dangerous places to get locked up. It's full of gangs that apparently I think you got to get hooked up to if you want to survive. Please, for those who are more experienced, put it in the comment section. But we continue to see those who go into the prisons without any ink and come out looking like this. And a lot of it might have to do with survival. And man, that's just scary. So if you like seeing these hearings, check out the playlist Utah. You'll see many more like it. And with that, I'll let you go.